Hello, readers. Welcome to our next reading lesson. We are today starting a new story related to the Iditarod. So you're going to want to make sure you have this packet, the Iditarod Adventures, packet for lessons 91 through 100. And we're in Reading Mastery Book B. So it has the cheetahs on the front, and you'll see that it says Book B right here on the side. Now we are starting at lesson 91, so we're jumping ahead a little bit. So if you want to finish reading the stories about Waldo, which started at the end of the last book, and then there's a story about Darla, just a few lessons about her that we're skipping. We're going to start today at lesson 91, but I first want to share just a little bit of information about the Iditarod with you, which is in lesson 89. So it's actually on page 91 in your book. It looks like this. So pause for a moment, get to page 91. We're not doing lesson 89, but I want to share this information passage with you. So facts about the Iditarod. Every year in early March, a great sled dog race starts in Anchorage, Alaska, and ends in Nome, Alaska. That's a distance of more than 1,100 miles, or 1,100, right? 1,100 miles. The map shows the route of the Iditarod. Now, before we turn the page, scholars, I want you to find Anchorage on the map. So that's where the race begins, and the racers travel 1,100 miles along that route where the race then ends at Nome, Alaska. So take a moment with your finger, start at Anchorage, follow that path until you get to Nome, Alaska. That's the route of the Iditarod. All right, turn the page. The people who enter the Iditarod race are called mushers. A musher is a person who drives a team of sled dogs. The musher usually stands at the back of the sled and shouts commands to the dogs. The dogs pull the sled. Some sleds have as many as 16 dogs pulling it. Some sleds have only 12 or 14 dogs. The picture shows a sled in action. The race from Anchorage to Nome takes about 10 days. Sometimes it takes longer. If the weather is very bad, the musher who wins the race may be on the Iditarod Trail for 11 days. Even if the winning sled gets to Nome in 11 days, the sled travels about 100 miles per day. So scholars, take a quick look at that picture. How many dogs does this musher have on his or her team? Did you count 14? I counted 14. All right. Now, scholars, that gave us some good background about the Iditarod. Now you want to turn until you get to lesson 91. So we're skipping past that test that's for 90 to get to lesson 91. It looks like this. Take a moment to get to that page. Lesson 91. All right. Touching column 1. Word 1 is rains. What word? Right, rains. This is the kind of rains like it rains a lot in the spring. These kind of reins are the straps that are attached to horses. The rider holds the other end of the reins and uses them to help steer the horses. Reins. Word 2 is a name. What name? Right, Butch. Word 3 is the word G. What word? Right, G. We'll find out soon that G relates to a direction the dogs are turning, a command to turn the dogs. And number 4 is purpose. What word? Right, purpose. If you do something on purpose, you do something the way you plan to do it. You did it on purpose. Column 2. Now, all the words in column 2 have endings on them. Listen as I give you the root word and the ending, the suffix, and you give me the whole word. Word 1, the root word is harness, and the suffix is ed. It makes the word right, harnessed. When a sled dog team is attached to the sled, we say the team is harnessed to the sled. Word 2, the root word is refer, and the suffix is ing, making the word right, referring. 2, the root word is tough, and we're adding the suffix ness to make right, toughness. Very good. 4, the root word is yap. Have you heard a dog yap before? And the suffix is ing, making the word yapping. What word? Right, yapping. And number 5, the root word is command, and we're adding the suffix s to it to make the word commands. What word? Right, commands. Good job. All right, column 3 has words that relate to our story today. Some interesting terms that tie to the Iditarod and the weather and characters in our story. Number 1, that name is Uncle Chad. What name? Right, Uncle Chad. Word 2 is parka. What word? Correct. A parka is a warm winter jacket with a hood. Word 3 is husky. What word? Right, husky. A husky is a strong sled dog that survives well in very cold weather. If you know Miss Albrecht, I believe her dog is a husky. Number 4 is goal. What word? Good, goal. Have you ever set yourself a goal before? Number 5 is leash. What word? Right, leash. And number 6 is another character name in our story, Denali. What word? Good, Denali. All right, column 4. Column 4, word 1 is kennel. What word? Good, kennel. A kennel is a place where dogs are kept. Word 2 is strain. What word? Good, strain. Number 3 is another name of a character in our story, Susie. What name? Good, Susie. Susie's a proper noun, right? It names a specific person in our story. Number 4 is crisp. What word? Good, crisp. And number 5 is the name of a town in our story, Nick. What name? Right. Nick is another proper noun in this list. It names a specific town. All right, number 6 is the word honor. What word? Right, honor. It is my honor to be your reading teacher. Honor. All right, we've made it to column 5, scholars. I know this is taking us a bit, but these are important words as we get started on our new stories about the Iditarod. Number 1 is another name, right? We just learned that the Iditarod race ends in this town, Nome. What name? Right, Nome. Number 2 is a compound word. Along and side make excellent, alongside. Number 3 is the word wool. What word? Good, wool. Number 4 is whoa. What word? Right, whoa. Like, hold on, whoa. And number 5. What word? Correct, 0. All right, scholars, find part B. We are going to start our new story today, but first, an information passage that gives us some facts about sled dog teams. Everyone, let's read the title together. Get ready. Sled dog teams. Most sled dog teams have an even number of dogs, 12, 14, or 16. In the Iditarod, a musher can't have more than 16 dogs. The first pair of dogs in the team are the lead dogs. Lead dogs must be very smart, and they must be leaders, so the other dogs will follow them. So, scholars, what did we just hear is the name of the first pair of dogs? Right, lead dogs. And what did we hear lead dogs need to be? Right, they need to be very smart and they have to be good leaders. So the lead dogs have to be very smart and be good leaders, and they're at the front of the line. The pair of dogs just behind the lead dogs are called swing dogs. They are the best dogs at following, and they are very fast. When the lead dogs swing to the left, the swing dogs follow closely to make sure the other dogs follow the same path. So, scholars, we've heard that the lead dogs are first, and they have to be very smart and be good leaders. And then we heard, what's the pair of dogs right behind them? Oh, right, the swing dogs. And swing dogs have to be fast and be best at following. So lead dogs are first, then the swing dogs. Now we're going to jump ahead, right? The pair of dogs closest to the sled are called wheel dogs. Wheel dogs must be very strong because when the sled gets stuck, the wheel dogs are the ones who have to pull it out or turn it so it is free. So, what's the name of the dogs closest to the sled? Yes, wheel dogs. And what did we hear that wheel dogs have to be? Right, they have to be very strong. Let's take a moment, everyone, and look at the picture. See if you can figure this out. What letter shows the lead dogs? Yes, C. Now, what letter shows where the wheel dogs are? Correct, K. Now, what letter shows where the swing dogs are? Yes, R is correct. Let's continue. The dogs are harnessed together with nylon straps. Each dog wears a crisscross harness. So everyone, can you find one of those crisscross harnesses in the picture and kind of trace over it? See how it crosses, right? Makes an X, crosses over each other. Each harness is attached to a tug line. So the tug line, everyone, is labeled, right, for the lead dogs. So if you go back to the lead dogs in the picture, so the tug line comes off of the harness. Right? All the tug lines are connected to the gang line. That's the long line that runs down the middle of the team. The gang line is connected to the sled. If there are 16 dogs, the gang line may be over 60 feet long. So scholars, the gang line is also labeled in that picture. So start at the lead dogs and follow that gang line all the way back to the sled. That gang line can be 60 feet long if you have 16 dogs on your team. Maybe someone in your family would help you measure out 60 feet today to see how long that would be. Right? Have something at one end, measure out 60 feet and be at the other end, and then look back and think, that's how far it could be from the musher to the lead dogs. It's a very long distance when you measure it out. right? And all the dogs, the whole gang, is attached to that gang line. But what's the name of the line that attaches each dog to the gang line? Oh, right, that's the tug line. All right. So the gang line is the long one in the middle that they're all attached to. The whole gang is attached to that line. All right. Column C, our news story. Susie and Denali. Susie put on her parka and mittens. It was warmer today, about 4 degrees below zero. Susie went outside and called, Denali! A large Alaskan husky came running through the crisp snow, stopped in front of her, sat down, and wagged his tail. It will happen in a little more than 2 weeks, Susie said. Denali licked his chops and looked as if he understood her. Susie was referring to the Iditarod. This year, it would begin on March 15th. Susie's Uncle Chad was going to be a musher in this year's race. He lived less than a mile from Susie's place in Nick, Alaska, and Susie had been working with him for almost a year, getting ready for the race. So hold that spot, scholars. Let me check in on a few things with you. So, who did we just hear is going to be a musher in this Iditarod race? Right, Susie's Uncle Chad. And who did we hear has been helping Chad train? Yes, Susie has. Now, what state did we hear they live in? Right, Alaska. So Alaska is a proper noun. It names a specific state. What's the date that the race will start? Yes, March 15th is correct. So the race is a little more than 2 weeks away. So it's probably right now, right around March 1st, if the race is going to start in 2 weeks. And we heard the temperature is 4 degrees below zero. Scholars, when it's 4 degrees below zero and we're at school in the building, we'd have to probably have inside recess with it being 4 degrees below zero. So it's pretty cold, but she's outside with her dog Denali. Let's keep going. Susie harnessed Denali to a practice sled. She stood next to the sled and called out, Mush! Denali pulled hard and the sled jumped forward. Susie ran alongside the sled, then jumped on the back. Denali knew that he was going to Uncle Chad's place, and he was eager to get there. The snow squeaked and crunched as Denali pulled the sled along next to the road. Susie imagined that she was in the great Iditarod race. She tried to imagine what it was like with 14 or even 16 dogs in front of her as they pulled the sled through country that was so wild that there were no roads in many places, just the Iditarod Trail. Susie had heard stories about the Iditarod and the dangers mushers had to face, getting lost, being attacked by animals, and the most feared problem of all, freezing. Whoa, whoa, she called to Denali. Uncle Chad's place was on the other side of the road. A large truck went by. The driver waved to Susie. She waved back and then called out, Mush! Right, so now we know mush, right, means to go, and whoa means to stop. Denali pulled the sled across the road. Some of Chad's dogs were looking at Denali from their kennel. 2 of them were barking. So she's made it to her Uncle Chad's place, right? Uncle Chad came out, wearing a wool shirt, gloves, and earmuffs, but no coat. He was handsome, and for an instant Susie wondered why he had never married. She also wondered how he could dress like that in cold weather. He called to her, Susie, bring Denali around back. Today, we're going to run with a loaded sled. Can Denali be one of your wheel dogs? Maybe later, he smiled. She didn't. Oh, come on, she said. He's a good wheel dog. He knows all the commands and. Susie, Chad said, I need to find out how the regular team of 14 dogs is going to do in really rough country. Let's pause again for a moment. Hold your spot. So, what do we now know is the name of Susie's dog? Correct, Denali. Why didn't Chad want Denali to be one of the wheel dogs today? Right, did you say something related to he wants to work his regular team in rough country? Right, so he wants to test them out in some harsher conditions, maybe heavier snow, right? Harder terrain with his regular team. So we now know Denali's not a part of the regular team of dogs he's using in the Iditarod. Could you remind me, where are the wheel dogs when they're all harnessed to the gang line? Did you remember? They're the ones closest to the sled, right in front of the sled. Let's go just a little bit further. Chad walked to the kennel, opened the kennel gate, and said, Into the truck, you guys. The dogs ran around, jumped on Chad and Susie, and then jumped in the back of Chad's truck. 3 dogs got into arguments about who would sit closest to the sled, which was already in the truck bed. They growled and snapped. Stop that, Chad said, and the dogs settled down. Most of them were a lot smaller than Denali, but they were all very strong, and they were all tough. They would need that toughness when they ran the Iditarod, because then they would have to pull the sled all day long, sometimes for more than 14 hours a day. All right, scholars, I might have you pause, read the rest of this to yourself, and then click play again to hear my couple questions at the end. All right, let's see how you did. How many practice runs had Susie gone on with Chad? Did you say over 100? That would be correct. And how many times has Chad been in the Iditarod? Right, 1 time. And how many times did he finish the race? Did you say 0? That would be correct. Why did he not finish the race? Correct. His sled broke down and he had to drop out. So he's been in the Iditarod once, but he did not finish it. He had to drop out because his sled broke down. At the end of today's story, they're at Eagle River Valley, ready to run the dogs. All right, scholars, be sure to click on the link to hear information about your assignment for today. Thanks for joining me.